Welcome to another edition of Podcasters, today with Wesley Nous. Wesley, welcome.
Hello, thanks Doron. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Wesley, I'm 25. I grew up in Maastricht and I moved to Amsterdam. And I met you through LinkedIn to talk about chatbots. And I'm very excited to be here today.
Now, Wesley, you're a young guy, and but you've been developing a lot of stuff since a very young age. I believe it's 17.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey, and then we'll dive in to what we're actually going to talk about.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it all started pretty much when I was a bit younger, so 14, 15, when I started making my first mod menus for a Call of Duty game, or first editing and then making them, which I really enjoyed. I also started selling it on Selfie. So it's like an online platform, one of the early ones, like Gumroad, where you could put your product online and we'd share it in Skype groups. And I thought it was just nice because I'd get feedback from people, you'd process it, and then they'd all be happy. From there on, I actually became a plumber.
Plumber?
A plumber. So on Schiphol, there's this mini air jet where I put the sprinklers inside, and I absolutely hated doing that. Like, absolutely awful. So I thought, okay, that's not going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I got to really figure it out. I started doing sales and then walked up into Intel. So I learned about a lot about computers, and then I started optimizing the sales processes and like the forms and the Salesforce automations. And then I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I want to do more with this. And then I sort of bluffed my way into an internship at Bayer, and then started working on a radiology app. And from there on, I got to start my own business. And yeah, that's history.
And tell me a little bit more about your business, where it started and where you guys are at now. And that actually brings us to what we're going to talk about.
Yes, so the very start of the business was with the projects at Bayer. And then I started going to all the parties where I did sales, optimizations with, and then sold just packages to them to help them optimize their processes. And I actually did mostly consulting for 8 years. So mostly just advising companies on how to build, helping them get developers, train their team. And at a certain point, I was sort of reaching the annoyance that no real startup knows what they're going to do for the next 3 months. Like, you might have a plan, but that plan is not really worth a lot.
just a plan.
It's just a plan. It's just a few words on paper, and then you start knocking on someone's door and your whole plan changes. And then you start talking to your first 10 customers and your whole plan changes. And that's sort of the name of the game, is adapt or die.
It's called reality.
Yeah, it's called reality. And I was sort of getting frustrated where you make a project, someone comes with requirements to you, you sell them an invoice for the coming 3 or 4 months to help them build it and help them launch it. And then after 2 months, you discover like, oh, yeah, what you're building is just definitely not what your customer wants. But then we've already built all of this big software, and there's all these parties involved, and you cannot just you're not agile enough to switch. You cannot completely switch your business model or the way it works. So then we started looking into the low code and no code space, which was already quite adult at the time. So it was quite nice to join in. So most of the integrations, most of the things you want to do, there was a video on it. There was a document on it. There was a path to follow, so to speak. And we noticed that it just became 50% cheaper. The clients were getting better results. It was at least 20% faster and definitely more flexible. So from there on, I started looking at, okay, how can we sort of share the risk in building these automations, and how can we make it as small as possible? Because everybody wants to come with you. Like, I want to build the new Fiverr, I want to build the new Facebook, I want to build the new Uber. But also all of those platforms started a lot smaller than they are today. So you just sort of have to pick a few things you want to solve and a few things you want to be really good at. And from there on, you can expand your business. But that's very hard to sell. And of course, I also have to pay my mortgage, my rent, my everything. So from there on, we sort of started looking, okay, what is a possibility? Then I couldn't really find anything. So I just continued consulting because I couldn't get it down to the cost where I wanted to make it for, like that I would say yes to if I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had a small budget and I had to spend it to someone else to have them make software for me and work with me. So I thought that price point was around 200 or 300 euros to start. And yeah, that was just basically impossible for me to make a profit on. And I think 2 years ago, I saw the first post on Reddit about myth GPT. So for some that don't know, there was a fault made in OpenAI where they wanted to make a profanity filter. And instead of turning it into a neutral number, they added a minus by accident. So instead of canceling profanity, it became profanity in its purest form. So you would ask it for a recipe, and it would give you some sort of sex story or a meth recipe or just very strange things. And I thought, like, this is so funny. Like, I played around with the playground all day. I must have spent like $15 in credits just making raunchy stories and stuff. And then I figured out, like, okay, this could be quite cool, but I don't know really what to do with it. And then I saw the first startups come online where they were like copywriting or doing the most simple things with it. And yeah, then I thought, okay, I'm just gonna do interviews with companies where I just want to know, like, what do you think of this app if I show it to you? And everybody was like, what kind of crazy guy are you? This is just like some sort of random sentences added together, because the model wasn't amazing back then. It was quite decent. So I thought, well, people said the same thing when I first had Wi-Fi at home, and it was strange. And when you get a smartphone and an iPad, and everything is always strange and scary.
Guilty.
Yeah, no, and I understand. Sometimes now I think, for example, also with Bitcoin, like, you can say a lot of things about it, but it's definitely going to be a financial means that stays. But then it comes online. And I remember for my communion, my uncle said, like, oh yeah, you should put all the money in Bitcoin. I said, like, hey, you're crazy. I'm going to buy a PSP and I'm going to have the time of my life.
and you regret it now?
No.
You bought the Bitcoin or not?
No, I didn't buy a single Bitcoin. Of course, you can say you regret it, but I really enjoyed playing on that PSP as well. And I was like, what was I, 10 years old? So that would have been an issue. No, but then I started doing workshops at companies for ChatGPT, and from there on, at the end, we had a little quiz where we would bring ideas that you brainstormed with ChatGPT in groups of 2. We would rank them on impact, how easy it would be to make, and how much money it would cost. So you pretty much get a good list of, like, what is a good idea, what is a bad idea. And then, of course, they had this list, and then they came to me like, oh, but we actually want to build the stuff that we talked about. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, we'll figure it out. It's the first time I'm doing it, so we'll go through it. And then I actually discovered it's quite easy. Especially when you come from the low code or no code perspective, it's decently easy to just get something running and get, by whatever means necessary, get the answer somewhere. And from there on, I started just making the apps, and we noticed that every project we would get quicker and it would get better, and we would learn the AI tools better. So I started lowering my prices, thus getting more customers. And now we have a business model where I try to simplify it as much for a price that I think that's fair. I think I might need to change the terminology, but we charge 50 euros per month per task. So if you have to manually read an email, summarize it, or do something with it, each of those tasks for 50 euros per month, so basically 1 hour, we automate it for you. And that's working beautifully because all of the customers have no risk in calling us. We don't charge for consulting. We don't charge for anything. We just charge for what we make you. So we're only busy with stuff that really furthers your business. And then you soon start to uncover that AI agents are a thing. And that's where everybody's going to now. So first it was just digitizing the processes. And now we've got our first customers who are really run by AI, where even one of them said, we want to hire 1 person max per year. And they recently fired that person. Well, it's of course not nice to fire a person, but it's nice that you can focus on growing and helping your customer instead of building a team at this stage when you don't have to.
Now, you went from the man without a plan to a man with a plan?
Right? I wouldn't say that. I'm the man who follows the way the wind goes.
Yeah, but yeah, well, apparently you found the right wind to follow. Yeah. But if you look at the journey and then at what's happening in the technology, in the AI world, where do you think this is going? I mean, of course you're 25.
Yeah.
You look at the world differently than I do,
Yeah.
or you have less history. Let's put it that way.
That's also
That's also true. Uh, and where do you think this is going? What does this mean for white collar workers, people that work in an
yeah.
office? I mean, I can imagine in a factory where you actually make things. Of course, you can automate stuff, but up to a certain limit, and then okay, robots can do stuff, but people need to show up and do things physically.
Yeah.
But when it entails data or a step-by-step process, we've seen it with RPA already for a long time. People forget that it has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
What does AI? What does the AI add to the RPA? Because I think it's RPA on steroids.
Yeah, no, it's definitely is. So what I think personally, and I'll start with the end goal and then work my way
Sure.
to it. So I hope we can go to a place where everybody works 4 days, maybe not even 8 hours per week. Everybody can focus on
Per
something.
day, I hope, per day.
Yeah,
8 hours per day.
not per day, not the 4 hour, but less than 8 hours per week. And so you can truly be effective and focused. I think we've all worked at a desk job where sometimes you're just looking at your screen, and if you say that you have free time, then somebody else always will have a chore for you, and always something that doesn't really. I think the keyword for my generation is I want to have impact.
Okay.
I really want to have impact. And what that means is different for every single person. Impact can be a smile on someone's face. Impact can be getting a new customer. It can be building something that you like. It can be solving a real world issue.
Social.
Yeah, so it can be a lot of things. And AI gives you the power to make impact wherever you are. And I think that is beautiful. If you don't know how to do something or write something, you can learn it so much faster with AI. If you want to, maybe get your first website up and running, if you want to get your first node error fixed, just the speed at which you get to iterate and learn is so incredible that it's truly in your own hands now. You're not reliant on a $20,000 a year study to teach you stuff that's at least 5 or 8 years old. No, you can be on the edge of what's coming out today. And I think that's amazing. And I personally think that AI will become a great supplement to each business. So small things, I think people undervalue, even our customers. They're only recently uncovering like, oh, there's this other real estate firm. They have 30 employees and they do half our lead volume. Like, why is that? Why do you think the consumer chooses for you or them? Everybody would go for the reputable company. But if the reputable company takes 3 hours to reply to your WhatsApp or email or isn't even available on a lot of the channels, and you have to call them and you have to wait in line, people don't, in consumer behavior, they definitely value that Zalando gets your package here within a day. They definitely value that you can free refund. They definitely value that you don't have to call some of these companies to do whatever you need them to do. You want to be self-service, or like the self-scan kassa that we have in the Netherlands. People really enjoy that, to have something the minute they want it. And I don't know if you know the comedian Ronnie Chang.
No.
No, he has a very funny bit on his Netflix show where he wants, I want everything now. I want Amazon now. I want to put it in my mouth, and I want someone to chew my jaw for me, and I want it now. And that's like ultimate American, but also European consumerism. But that's eventually what you want. If you order something and someone brings it to you in 10 minutes, that's exactly what you want. If you can get it to 1 minute, then everybody else cannot deliver for 5 minutes anymore, because the standard is different. And that's what AI makes possible. So it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 employees, if you have 1,500 customers or leads coming through, and you have to answer them all, then you'll spend such an insane amount of money, and your response time will still be 5 minutes.
Or longer.
Or much longer. But in the best of scenarios with humans, you can get to 5 minutes. And it doesn't mean that everything has to be handled by AI and nothing can be personal anymore. but not having to do that day job, not having to manage that whole support team, that enables you to really add value for a customer, to focus on improving your products. And I hope that's what we're going to use it for.
Let's take it's an interesting thought, and let's follow this chain of thought to see what's happening in the U.S. I don't know if you saw that the federal government sent 1 or 2 million, I don't know how many emails to employees that federal government employees, that they can leave their job and get a bonus and then bye bye.
Yeah.
And they expect 5 to 10% to say, yeah, that's cool. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you look at, that's the American government, and of course, Elon Musk is involved, and it's drastically inefficient. But if you look in Europe, we have the same problem. And every new rule we bring out, we need, I don't know how many employees to manage that, to implement it, and then to control it. Now, if you look at, let's assume you would introduce AI on a broad scale in government. Imagine because maybe 80% or 85% of the tasks doing between civilian and the government is standardized, and the rest is exception and a problem and complicated, etc. So imagine, and now you have to wait, and they don't have time for you, and it takes 6 weeks, blah blah blah.
Or the number is just completely offline. I had to fix my taxes because they like grossly overvalued the house that I live in. I don't know where they got the number from. It must have been some sort of error. And just like 3 days they were offline. Then of course the waiting line was full, so you have to wait 2 weeks. And you just cannot get through to them. And even if you mail them, it all gets lost in the mailbox.
It doesn't matter if it's physical mail or it's not just there. It scales all around because there's an overload of the amount of channels they have, and the same people have to handle all these channels. So I don't envy them having. It's actually unfair. We're giving them as a society, giving them a mission impossible. With every new set of rules, we're making it worse. So they need more people, and then taxes have to go up because they need to pay for that, or we need to pay for that. But that's I think that's a broader problem. And the way, I'm not pro or against anyone, but I think you will see something happening in the U.S., whether we like it or not, as like a huge change, where the only conclusion I can put in place is that they will implement AI at rapid speed, given also the investments they're going to do in order to replace the standardized task with AI agents that simply solve the problems in a standardized way 24 hours a day. So the standard things get handled real quick and properly according to rules and regulations. And the exceptions, the people that still work there, have time to handle the exceptions and have proper attention not to make mistakes and to actually help people. That's what the government is there for.
And to not see you as a number, because sometimes you call these people and they try their best to be friendly, but you can just hear the sigh in their voice, like, again, not this again. Issue. Oh, again. Oh, no. But it's so, and you have to call this department and then they'll call me back. And then
I give you a perfect example. I was yesterday, I was with my mother. She had to pick up her new ID. We went to the community office, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you see you see the service slow down. It's really weird. You're like, what the hell's happening? And then you see people running around sort of in a panic. Still no communication. And then you see these people like, oh no. And you hear them whispering. It's like, who's going to tell them? Who's going to tell them? So the security guy says, I'll do it. So he says, listen, people, we have a slight technical problem. We cannot take any applications today for new passports or ID cards because the fingerprint scanner, the system isn't working. So it's down. So, but we had to pick something up, so it was an issue. So all of a sudden things sped up and people were, the lines were tremendous. So we weren't unhappy. And the lady says, there was some idiot that thought it was a good idea to introduce new scanners. This is the second or the third time. It's been there for 2 weeks. This happens. It goes down. And the amount of people that we have to send away for half a day, they come back another day.
Yeah.
So it gets worse. And the old scanners, there was nothing wrong with them. They worked perfectly, but someone had an idea, we needed new equipment. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is really interesting. So someone introduced new equipment. It wasn't properly tested because otherwise it won't go down that much.
Yeah.
And they didn't listen to the employees. And I think that's the actual point. Ask the people who do the work, is it
Yeah.
properly working? And what does it change to invest in something new? And that's the same thing with AI. I think you should involve the people that do the work. So what time are you freeing up, and what can they do with that time that is actually relevant for the people they serve, whether
Yeah.
it's customers or civilians, or it doesn't matter, or members.
And I think especially just having the ability to change, and even if you're not technical, explain it in a manner and get it in a PowerPoint presentation, and really bring through your point to really give yourself a voice and create that impact in your company. I think that's very crucial.
So if you start thinking about this, it's really crazy, because why don't you make a terminal where you take all the data of the people,
Yeah.
and then just check it once, if it matches with with the input,
Yeah.
and so you could have another line somewhere else. So the process could be, but that's I look at this process and
It should pretty much be you can just do it online, maybe with Digi ID, and then you go to the municipality offices. I do understand that you want a human seeing that it's another human.
makes perfect sense.
That
And
makes, I think no one's against that. But then it's basically just like checkout line where there's one or two people, and it's oh yeah, that's okay. Just similar to the douane when you go from
yeah,
Schiphol, like
uh,
it's just some person. Okay, let's go.
yeah, and you could have like a row where you take fingerprints, etc., and a face scanner to make sure that you are you, and you use your old ID, and it just checks, and then the lady checks again, and you put it on once instead of 6 times, and
Yeah.
then it's okay, it's you, and then let's finalize it. Data correct? Yes, okay, let's go.
And it's funny because in the US they have these Amazon stores that are without employees, and there you have the palm
No,
reader. So you just palm check in, you get your groceries, you walk out. Like why does a grocery store have that, but a government doesn't?
it's interesting. I'm not against government, but government has all our data, and they're very scared of making mistakes or leaks or etc. Well, they still mess up and connect data they shouldn't. And corporations, especially in the US and some other countries, they are less concerned. They are concerned about privacy, but they think they can handle it perfectly, so they're a little bit less concerned.
Yeah.
And they understand, if you look at it from a business perspective, you need to test this and see if it works, and if consumers are actually prepared to go to a store with no employees, and what's the impact of that, and
Yeah.
how much theft do we get, and can we cover that with cameras and AI, so or RFID things on the products. I
Yeah.
mean, you can think of a million ways to do that, and I think the government needs to, in general, not just here, needs to experiment more with new tech and see
Yeah,
whether.
and the thing is, you can also label it as an experiment. It doesn't have to be something behind closed doors for 4 years, and then it comes out and it's outdated and it's terrible. So maybe the thing is that the government, at least here, doesn't try to innovate. They just try to bring out an Apple-like product every time, but it never works.
Well, they don't even bring it out, so
Yeah,
it just
that's another route.
it just fails in beauty after a year of building. It's like, we spend 100 million, but it's not working, or
Yeah.
no, and
Okay, we'll try again next time.
that, and I think we overcomplicate things. It's what you said in the beginning. Keep it small
Yeah.
and simple, instead of huge and complex. And I think we have the huge and complex syndrome.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be huge and complex at once, instead of working our way towards
Yeah.
huge
Just
and complex.
step by step.
Yeah. Having said that, um, if you look at AI agents and step by step, I read an article. I just want to know your opinion on this. I read an article that someone commented on the Microsoft Copilot, and again, I'm not against Microsoft Copilot, but the risks involved for businesses where in Copilot Studio you can build your own AI agents,
Mhm.
right? where employees get access to it, and they start building their own AI agents, giving it access to the data they have access to. And and the person wrote that this is an IT manager's and a security manager's nightmare. First of
Yeah.
all, it doesn't work properly, and you have only one model you can access.
Yeah.
That's one point, and it's not the best model for everything. And secondly, they have no control over it. There's no way to monitor what goes where and how, and if the results are actually okay. So, what's your view on this? Because a lot of companies will say, "Oh, we're a Microsoft company, or another, or Google, or whatever. Let's do this, or we have it anyway, so let's use it." I heard someone say it recently, and like,
Yeah.
you have any idea what the consequences are if all your employees make their own agents? And yeah,
No,
he hadn't thought about it.
no. So what I think first and foremost is we also used to help a lot of businesses move from Google to Microsoft, to Google to Microsoft. Doesn't matter which side. When you do that, you've already lost all your data. So besides all of the other bad things that could happen, there's not a single way to get that data back. Like all of the ChatGPT inputs, the chats. I doubt they even have a way to export it. We personally use Google ourselves, so I wouldn't know. I don't have an amazing amount of experience with it. I think the second issue is which is also quite prevalent with the DeepSeek model coming out now, is we thought AI was very expensive, but it can actually be extremely cheap when you compare. It was already very cheap, but
hold on, let's nuance this. Because now people might think that AI is cheap, but AI is not cheap. It's the getting a license for something is relatively cheap, or operating it on a computer, where now we're seeing that you don't necessarily need the huge model in order to do it. That means you can use a cheaper server or need a different GPU, not as heavy. Or that's why NVIDIA, the stock market, or the stock market price of NVIDIA went down a little bit.
Tiny bit.
I think some people that invested heavily are very
not
angry.
happy.
Not happy, no. But it also showed that having sanctions on not allowing to sell chips is useless, because they'll find a way around it, and it actually this kind of pressure helps innovation.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing, the AI itself became cheap, but that doesn't mean the use or the implementation of AI is cheap.
No, that's of course true.
Let's nuance that.
The cost. So I think when ChatGPT 3.5 launched, so when most people download the app, that version, I think it was 54 cents per million input or output. And right now that's something like 22 cents. So it does decrease, but the costs are still, if you want to start using it, you're looking, even for a startup, you're looking at a few $100s per month if you truly use it for your business.
That's the operational cost, but let's not forget what you make it sound so simple, but there's a whole journey before it to get where it becomes simple. And I think that people forget that also costs money. You need to pay for that as a client.
I might be oversimplifying there a little bit. Yeah.
No. See, the point is, I think there's two phases. There's one where you go, okay, we have an idea. We go from this idea to building or constructing or an implementation, and then the operating model. Yeah. And the initial investment is something else than the operating model. My opinion is you should focus on getting the lowest operating cost as possible in order to have a scalable business. And that's where AI becomes interesting, and that's where I think we sort of know where this is going. But if you own the AI, as far as you can own the AI, but you have full control over it, you also control the operational cost. And I think that's a big mistake a lot of companies are making. Yeah. They have no control over the operational cost. If the cost of AI itself, so the use of AI, goes down, these big companies need to make their money. So why are they pushing cloud computing? Well, because that's where they make the money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
No, I understand. This is
So
also the point I was getting to with the Pro model. So you can see that they charge you a ridiculous price. And we were already looking at it before, where if you use the ChatGPT via the API or you use it via the license, you are almost definitely not using 80% of your tokens, because you would have to be sending 50 chats with 50 messages of 150 input or output per message to get back your license when you're using ChatGPT 4.0, which is sort of logical because they also need to grow and it's still a sort of low price to get in. But when you charge $200 per month for a model that you can now self-host or even use the DeepSeek API or one of the providers that helps you with it, yeah, the costs are, what is it, divided by 3 already?
yeah, and the interesting part is that you're in control of if you scale, your costs are not scaling with you, only
Yeah,
the server capacity, which makes perfect sense. And even that you can fully control.
yeah,
And
yeah. Everything stays inside. And yeah, there's more and more political issues coming around. So they might decide to limit more and more countries from providing certain services. You saw it with TikTok now. It's pretty much out of our hands. So still in the Netherlands and Europe, we can use it. But you can see that on, what was it, on eBay, that they're selling iPhones with the TikTok unlocked. You can stream for $15 per 10 minutes to watch a TikTok feed of someone else. Yeah, that's crazy stuff. You see people do crazy times create crazy people.
yeah, but now you haven't been sitting still, and I was really curious. When we had a pre-talk, you said, "Well, we're adapting and we're making shit to." I say shit, but I don't mean shit. Actually,
Yeah.
you're making simple stuff. No, you're making software to make complicated stuff simple. Let me put
Yes.
it that way. And otherwise, I'm not doing right by what you guys are doing. And I was curious, is it possible to show something how it
Yes.
works? And because I think a lot of people have no idea. They just see ChatGPT or one of the other models, or Mistral or Claude, or DeepSeek now.
Yeah.
And my question is, why should I limit myself to one model? That's also
Oh,
the
to one model. So
uh, if you have a different task. I mean, if you have a math task or calculation task, um, I think there are models that are better at that than
yes.
other models. So why shouldn't I use the right model for a specific task instead of having one model that serves all of them, which is sort of impossible in my opinion. If I
No,
look at the
it is sort
results.
of impossible. There is a bit of both. So there, what I'm noticing is, for example, you have the Quen one is good at math, and I have to search the
Ah,
other one. I think it's the
did you? By the way, did you try Grok?
Grok. Yeah, it's insanely fast.
It's insanely fast, but you can make it say and do anything that
Yeah,
ChatGPT won't.
yeah. No,
You
it's
know,
very.
basically, there's no limits. It's really funny.
Yeah, no, that's really nice. And I also don't 100% understand why all of these companies don't just give you an option to turn off their restrictions, because I can't imagine there's any legal implication for a
Now there
sort of
are.
AI bot that vomits out words.
They are. If you look at the European AI Act, amongst other things, there are consequences.
Yeah,
So, yeah, and of course, you can imagine that. Um, doesn't matter if it's in Europe or in the States or anywhere else. If you want society, to run right, that someone who, for instance, wants to make a bomb asks for a recipe of a bomb with household items, then maybe, of course, you can Google, you'll find it
yeah,
somewhere on the dark web. You'll probably find it as well. I haven't been there, but you probably find it. But they're talking about responsible AI, and I
yeah,
understand you. Freedom of speech is an important thing, and I think this is the interesting thing. It's an important discussion. If you think about AI and bias, right?
yeah,
It's really interesting. So a lot of people are promoting that you should take out bias out of a model. But if that model is trained on public information,
yeah,
that it, which is,
It's
in my
already
opinion,
biased. Yeah.
the real world. So the real world is biased. So let's say if it's a medical model and it says it's about Europe,
Yeah.
well, it's mainly Europeans, right? We haven't taken into account people with diseases that are specific to Africa. They'll
Yeah.
be underrepresented. But that makes sense because it's a European model
Yeah.
trained with European data. So if you start introducing the bias because, oh, it should be equal, then actually you're creating problems that
Yeah.
shouldn't be there. So I'm very careful about models that say, oh, we've taken out the bias. Then, but what have you introduced? Not real data. This is really interesting.
Yeah, that's a
And
very good point. No, that's very interesting. Now, I also thought it was funny. I don't know if it's real. I didn't test it, but I saw a meme today where it said, "Oh, if you ask ChatGPT, is Taiwan part of China?" And then it says no. And then if you ask DeepSpeak, then it says yes. So they.
I'm pretty sure it's probably right. You had it with at the time of the elections in the U.S.
Yeah.
If you asked ChatGPT, this is interesting because now Sam Altman is pro-Trump, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, if you asked ChatGPT about political questions,
Yeah.
you wouldn't get one negative word about the Democrats.
No.
If you would ask Grok about either Democrat, it would just blurt out
Yeah.
everything.
Well, Grok is sort of like the AI Trump, just says whatever they want.
No, it's basically AIX.
Yeah. Yeah. Also.
No, very few filters. There are some filters which I think are wise to have in place because you don't want it to be used for criminal purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of unfiltered, and it shows you. You can say yeah, it's biased, but it shows you the real world, and that can be annoying. But I think we should solve those problems in the real world, not in the model, because then it solves.
Yeah.
In reality, it solves nothing.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
I agree. And it's also what we were talking about with the models and the specific models. So within Open Web UI, you have a feature where it sort of tries to get the good model for you, which works more often than not, but it doesn't always work and grab the right one. Especially also looking at speed or whatever, like the complexity of your task is also, of course, quite difficult to interpret. But if you were to use something like the Llama 8 billion model, and compare that with the older 1 billion model from DeepSeek. So the general model, the Llama model, is, in my opinion, still better at getting you to set up your project or solve the issue. For one, it's faster, and I think all of the AIs should focus way more on speed than they have now, because ChatGPT itself, the UI and the app has gotten so amazingly slow. We need to keep pushing this threshold. It is possible to get it there in a millisecond. I think that should be a focus to keep adoption and interest high.
That's how NVIDIA makes their money, right? To say,
Yeah.
oh, you need a faster GPU.
Yeah, and I need it faster. We want it. I want it now. I want it now.
And faster and more expensive.
Yeah, that's fine. I want it now. So then you use this general model, and it gives you code. And more importantly, what I see, the more math or the more coding optimized model is they don't explain or text anymore. So they're quite good at creating code that works without bugs. It's still not bug free. Like nobody can really make something bug free unless you spend a tremendous amount of effort in your thought instead of just breaking and working through it. But they lack the context that they need. So a bit of let's call it the more human touch to explain what you're doing, to add more comments and that type of stuff. So I also think that is because most specialized models don't get as much attention as the main models.
And they're out there.
Yeah.
Check GitHub. There's huge listings.
There's plenty of them, but they still don't have like the huge resources, like the $1 million budgets to get their training data out there as quickly as possible. So they might already have a version which works a lot better, but because these bigger companies can pump them out every week or month, they fall behind quite quickly.
Yeah, that's my worry for Europe, to be honest. And I think DeepSeek has shown that it is possible. And I heard an interview yesterday on the radio with they had this Dutch GPT.
Yeah.
They started a year ago, a budget of 13 million euro, and still nothing on the market. They're still experimenting. Why? Because they want to be the best, the most decent boy of the class, or girl,
Yeah.
for that matter, because they wanted to settle the copyright of every piece of data they train
Yeah.
it on with, which is like okay, good luck.
It's
That's
like
why
it's
it
like
takes
playing.
forever.
It's playing with a handicap, and I do sort of understand that they make that choice. But I also think that we don't have an environment, like a business economic environment, where we can keep or get the top AI talent.
No, I heard that in Dubai they're attracting 100,000 AI programmers,
Yeah.
and Saudi Arabia is doing the same. I mean, they want to be the leaders over
Well,
there.
you have to be at the top of the game, and you're gonna have to. I wouldn't say cheat, but you're gonna have to find a way to make that happen. And then if you hear stuff that they want to remove, what I don't know the exact ruling, but basically the high value internationals here, they get 30% off their taxes. Yeah, if you remove that, you can stop all of your AI model development. We're never going to make it, because if you get an offer from OpenAI where you get $500,000 and then you get a few thousand shares a month, yeah, why would you stay in the Netherlands? Like
No, you
it's an
wouldn't.
impossible feat. So you're gonna have to do something to retain the top talent here. And I work a lot in South Africa, and there I see that they have a brain drain because there is no economic opportunities for them, for the best people that are educated there. And I do think we're going a little bit more in that direction than the direction we should be going.
Well, let's talk about something positive.
Yeah.
How to solve, actually, how to make businesses more scalable
Yeah.
using AI. And let's say it again, maybe the underlying AI is cheap, but the AI itself and the implementation, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
You need to do it the right way in order to become a scalable business. Once you have it and it works, then it becomes interesting,
Yes.
right? But the road there is a bumpy road.
It is. It is, especially if you're already a company with a very established process for a lot of years, with especially a lot of older employees who are. I understand that if you were already like 25 in 2005, or a bit older than that, it wasn't so easy to connect a webhook between two apps and make it automated. There was no Make.com, no Zapier, no nothing to get that data elsewhere. You really had to hire an engineer, get him in your company, and link those stuff. And then you would even have to dream about systems that you never learned about.
But I have to be honest. I worked with Make.com. It's not very stable. To be
Oh no,
honest.
it's not stable. We do prefer N8N, but just the occurrence of the tool, of like how easy it is to connect an API. And
No, it is easy, but then in the middle of the road, it stops working for
yeah,
no reason, and
yeah,
not once, but continuously. It's like
yeah.
okay, you
And
get
it's
so frustrated.
amazing that they turn it off and then they email you 20 times, and
Yeah, and really
it's
crazy. Anyway,
gone.
you're going to show us something, right?
Yes, I want to show you. We would have liked to spend a little bit of time on it, but my computer died last week, so we actually built it in a day. And
Let's not talk about the brand of the computer that crashed, right?
no, okay,
We can see it. We can see
we
it
can
here.
see it. That's fine.
No, I'm just
So
kidding.
what we do personally is we spend a lot of time making custom AI chatbots for businesses, and then of course they want to get it on their site. And when we first did it, it took us like 5 days, because you have to figure out how to make everything, send the messages across securely, store it, keep the context. Like, it's a bunch of new things you have to keep in mind. And we were looking at some other tools that were doing this, but when you want to set up something, you first have to add all your data sources and all of this stuff. There was nothing really out there like a Typeform or like a Tally, where you could just get an AI bot working and running on your site to connect with your customers. And let me see if I can.
I mean, and I see a lot of apps and software in SaaS coming out where you can do that online and connect all the sources. But then if you
Yeah,
look into that, I was looking at it. It's like, yeah, but I'm connecting my local source data sources uh, in that system, and then where's my data going? And then
yeah.
you have no idea, to be honest.
So it is still very bare bones. So we do have a better UI made to be shown soon. But our idea is just like a Typeform, just like a Tele, you want to be able to play around and build your own AI to add to your site or to share with friends. So in the past, when we did these workshops, we had one guy who was really cool. He made an AI for playing Dungeons and Dragons with his friends. That actually got really popular, and so he shared with more and more. And I think at the moment he has like 11,000 downloads, which is
Wow.
very nice. But then from ChatGPT assistance within the app, there's no real way to monetize that directly or to add your brand to it. You're keeping everything in their garden, so to speak. So we set out to make a very easy system where we could, let me see if I actually have an image. Let's say this would be the profile image. So you can very easily configure your AI assistant, give it a name. You can set the pre-fill messages and where it's supposed to go. We've got a prompt enhancer, which I'll show the backend system of in a minute, or how it would work behind the screens. So we've made our own prompt assistant, which is very good at translating simple instructions to a fully fledged chatbot. Here you can align the style. So do you want the text on the right or the left or centered? And this is all stuff that it takes you at least 20 minutes to build and code and to refine and to make it responsive. So we've given you a toolkit that you can basically recreate or make your own AI with without any coding knowledge. It will have a lot nicer buttons and UI. So you can pretty much change and configure everything. Add some new prefix tags. So for some reason it has a bug where it only types one word at a time, but let's say we want a tag that says hi. Then you can add it there and they can instantly add it to their responses, which is very nice. And also the more hard features like uploading documents and converting those to LLM ready data is all possible. Selecting your own model for each user will be some pro features we have. Then you can, of course, publish it and you can visit your AI. So you could also share it without having to set up a website and get leads and customers that way. And you can, of course, embed it into your site. So go to test. Then you can see it's embedded and you can very easily change it. So it can be added to any WordPress site, to any platform, to a support page, whatever you want. You can make something in a few minutes and have it run. Because we didn't have the time to fully make the backend system yet. At the moment, it doesn't even have a database. We've got this one. So yesterday I tested it with a friend and he does a lot of nutrition and he has a lot of people asking him just for like, oh, I've got these recipes. What is like a nutrition dense recipe that I can make? So we've got this prompt builder with a funny Monsters & Co image. So make me a simple prompt for a Chatblow sequence that finds unique recipes connected to their micronutrient goals. Start by introducing yourself. And then it builds you this prompt that ends at giving you the WhatsApp link for the person. So it also doesn't really collect any data. We might add that in the future where we can see the transcript and get someone's email and have something happen. And then if you simulate the conversation, it looks pretty much like this, like, hi, I'm Alex, your recipe assistant bot. Nice to meet you, Wes. What are your goals? So then I can also ask it out of context things where I want to relieve my back pain. And then I like these certain dishes.
It's interesting if you go back, you think it's out of context, but if you go
Yeah.
back, it actually it picks something up that actually might be favorable. I don't know, but
Yeah, no. So it does actually say foods rich in anti-inflammatory properties, magnesium, omega-3s can be super helpful. Let me know what you like or what diets you have. Like just the smartness of it and the way it interacts with how you speak is also what we see with a lot of the real estate companies. People like it. You feel that you're heard. And I have never seen a support agent type a message like this.
no.
So
And the amount of time it would take with all the emojis in it.
yeah, the emojis are maybe a little bit much, but but even just like the full range, like I want to relieve my back pain, a human would respond to that immediately with like, oh, you have to eat this food. But here it goes into context, and you keep that conversation going. And I think that's what a lot of people forget when they build AI is it has to be conversational. It has to feel like a 1-2, like ping ponging.
That's the one side, but now this is conversational.
Yeah,
But I would assume that, let's say you want to start a process or get something done,
yeah,
you would introduce, well, I would introduce a button or something that takes the customer directly to, if he says, I want to have, I don't know, XYZ.
yeah.
And we know, okay, that's a standardized process with standard steps. No, we don't need anything around it. It's just going from A to Z in the shortest possible track, shortest
No,
track
that's
possible.
also true. But for example, I bought this new laptop and then I wanted to know what is the difference between the M1 Mac and the M3 Mac in the amount of cores and specs and performance. What is the best price for that? I basically built a little chatbot myself to get my specific requirements in there and then compare all of the links that I found and got the computer that I like. But if the site that I bought it at would have a service like that, I can guarantee you they would get a lot more sales because it's a conversation. It's not just answer, answer, answer.
No, I agree. But as soon as you want to, let's say if you have decided, okay, I want the M3,
Yeah,
and this is the best price, or then okay, now I want to order it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, then it
As
would give you the link, of course.
not just it could be the link, but you could also make that okay. Here's a button. If that already has, if that bot has data from you,
Yeah,
I'm just thinking ahead. I would assume, no, I would dream of a situation where everybody has its own AI,
yeah,
where it has certain data of mine, and where I allow it to say, okay, we found out that in the conversation that XYZ, okay, I introduced my own button. Let's
yeah,
get to work, order it, and at the cheapest possible or the best delivery date or what have you.
yeah,
And then it takes my preferences from the AI and it selects the supplier with whatever. And then it enters my data. And I have to push approve
yeah.
because I think that's the last step as a human you should do.
Yeah, yeah. We also like
Um,
systems where humans approve the final steps or before we
exactly.
do something with impact.
But I would assume you inject here your private AI that, okay, or activated, or I don't know. It's not there yet. It's
Yeah,
non-existent.
yeah,
But I can imagine if you would run this in WhatsApp, for instance, it would be possible.
yeah. So you could use the WhatsApp buttons to get the actions that you need. You can also have templates generated on the fly.
Okay.
So there's a lot of possibilities to it, and this is also one of the examples where we use the software. So this is for a sim comparison site, and it asks you how is your deal. I want a sim only deal.
Here's I would have introduced buttons because you don't have to mess with typos, etc. It's okay. Which there's only a few. There's a limited amount of deals available, right?
Yeah, no,
That's
that's why we have these prefix bubbles. So when the
okay.
app is more mature, we will make an easy API or we will make an easy database that you can upload. But it's predominantly just to get something on your site that you can work with that adds value to your customers
Okay.
and that gets you into the flow of working with AI. No price range. And what I also like is that you're able to give multiple answers in one go. So again, in sentences instead of just
And
plain answers.
yeah, and it
And then
takes
if
it
we,
apart.
yeah, so if you click on this deal, then it opens the deal and you can actually buy it. So it is quite easy to get full data sets in there and to get your knowledge in there. But for us, for the demo that I was giving, it's maybe a little bit too early after one
So,
day.
no, that's no problem. But let's dream about this.
Yeah.
If now you're using the API probably of the calculation and calculation engine of that company, right?
Mhm.
Which has all the data in there. Now imagine the following: that you have a database with all that data in there.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if you instruct and use the AI well, and you use the model, the right model, you don't need that calculation engine anymore. It
Yeah.
basically builds the algorithm on the spot for you or you can have an algorithm in there that does it with the actual data. And there's no engine around the data. So you cut out that whole layer.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the goal that we're going for. So we want to make it easy to upload spreadsheets or to connect the database, and it should just intuitively get there. For that, we've been using tple.io, which is a new Postgres Airtable fusion, which is really, really fast, and their dev team is very friendly. So they're working on a lot of cool AI features where they also have. So I like it where AI will be available at every edge. So every API you would normally consume can now be consumed via a secured AI. And that way you can really build AI orchestrated systems, which I think on the technology side is going to be the future.
Yeah, where I want to make the nuance that I think you have to at some point run so many APIs.
Yeah.
That has two inherent risks in it. That one, that you have data going everywhere,
Yeah.
and to control that, you need a lot of people and systems to monitor the companies, etc. And that's one thing. But also, if one of the APIs goes bust, and they do go bust occasionally, your whole process goes down, and it's a thing. I would, but that's the way I look at these things. I see a future where, as a company, where you're serious about your strategy and your future, you take control. You need to work with companies and systems where, okay, I need to take control. I do not want to have a barrier to exit. Basically, I have my data, I have my training, but it's model independent. So people in minds are going to blow right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you can say, I use that, and I take the best model for the job, where everything I already did stays with me.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the future, this is where we're going. You have control over the data, you have control over the models, you have control over model updates. Huge problem.
Yeah.
How often have you run into, oh, this works perfectly, and all of a sudden behind the API, a model update, you're like, it doesn't work anymore. How the hell is this possible? Those are costly exercises.
Those are very costly changes, yeah.
And you have no control. So
it's all outside of your hands.
Exactly. So that's why I think I saw this one guy on LinkedIn. He under every post he puts own your own AI.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we should be going, because business strategy wise and IT strategy wise, you need to have control over data, model updates, and cost. And if you don't control these dimensions, you're preparing yourself for
you're up in the hands of God.
Well, you're in the hands of big tech.
Yeah, pretty much the same nowadays.
and big tech is not bad. But here's the interesting thing. I don't think any company, European company, thought about this. That if Mr. Trump, and I'm not against Trump, and I'm not pro-Trump, we're apolitical, right? I love your cup. It says
thank you.
It says schatje, but
on the other side it has a pretty lady.
But it says schatje means honey in Dutch. No, but people haven't thought about this. But what if Mr. Trump? What if Europe and the US get into a row over Greenland? I don't know. Find something stupid. And it's really stupid too. It's 50 or 75,000 people. What are we fighting about?
Yeah.
And nothing against the people of Greenland, but let them decide what they want, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But let's say Europe and the US, and right now our leadership is gearing towards is are getting into a fight over Greenland.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know what? Mr. Trump says, "Fuck you, Europe. You know you're totally dependent on us, dear Microsoft, dear Amazon, dear Google. Please shut off all European or all the governments."
Yeah.
You know what happens, right?
Yeah.
People don't realize that most governments in Europe are on Azure.
Yeah.
If they shut it down or they disconnect,
Yeah.
and
We're all
we're
gone.
we're not gone, but we're screwed.
Yeah, we
And
have
and I think if you're a company, especially, but it could be an American company with Europe, same thing. If you use a European SaaS provider, you need to be aware of this might happen. What are you going to
yeah.
say to your customers? Like, yeah, we got shut off by Microsoft because not because we didn't pay our bills, but our government was fighting, and then the Americans said, "Well, fuck you."
Will have a very big impact. And I also think another thing is that in the future we might have a lot more, like they also do in South Africa, load shedding, internet outages, blackouts, especially with the climate worsening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I had a discussion with this on a friend. Like I really want to download. I'm a big movie head. I watch movies 24/7 for the last 10
Oh,
years.
you have time to work.
I watch it in the back. I have the TV in the back, and there's always a movie on, and I'm enjoying it. But that would be my personal number one worry. Would be not even the AI, but I want my movies to. I want to be able to watch my movies, and I think that's especially also pulls through to the AI, all of your IT systems, getting something local, getting something secure. In Europe, the GDPR is quite well regulated, so you know that companies are doing what they're supposed to do for the largest part.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing: if let's say this crazy thing happens and Trump gets angry and Microsoft has to shut off European customers.
Yeah,
I mean, you can be GDPR proof, you can European AI Act proof. They still shut you down,
yeah,
and they
it's all gone.
and it's not something they can. I don't even you can sue them because they are ordered by their government. It's
Yeah.
and then sue the American government. Good luck.
It's the same how ASML is also not allowed to sell to China,
Yeah, they
and it's
solved it.
also the same. What was it? An example that Trump gave where the Mexican government wanted to import taxes by something. Then he says, "Okay, all the wine that you import also raises in taxes," and then it's completely gone. And it's not just Trump; it's every government around the world.
No, that's exactly.
So,
It's not. It's something that's playing right now, but it's not necessarily. It's
yeah,
not against
so
anybody.
it's definitely smart to secure whatever you have and get it as much into your own hands and yeah, get the software that you need.
Yeah, that. But I think also in the long term, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Because
definitely. No, most definitely.
Because there's not the purpose of selling you the AI and upping the. This is what that's what DeepSeek, what other people already knew with other models, and you and I have seen other models that are smaller and work perfectly. You can run on your laptop. So there's other things possible, but DeepSeek made it publicly known that you can run a smaller model and get extremely good results.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing. So the necessity to sell you huge amounts of cloud computing, interesting. Yeah. Do we actually need that? But that's where the money is made. So I think that we're going to see a strategic shift, and you're going to help with that, I presume.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I also want to talk about. So, what do you think? There is currently no big AI player in the Netherlands. Like, there's no local ChatGPT that you can buy a license to and use that is secure and that will stay working.
Well, as I told you, there was yesterday on the radio, TNO.
Yeah, they're making a new model, but it's not a service, right?
No. They're making but it's not out there yet. They're testing, and as I said, they license everything in terms of they need to write licenses to train on certain data that is not copyrighted or the copyright is settled, which is okay. Interesting approach. But by the time they come out, they're probably going to be totally outdated.
Yeah.
So because technology has been moving so fast. Yeah. The question is, are we big enough to make a Dutch GPT? I mean, I think that there's a lot of models out there that are actually doing quite a good job.
I
And
think so. I just think someone has to step up and do it.
and, and yesterday on the news, I saw a university professor with a reporter, and they tested ChatGPT and DeepSeek next to each other
Yeah,
with the result. And interestingly enough, it was about a Dutch saying, which, if you just say it and translate to English, it makes no sense at all.
yeah,
And DeepSeek actually explained it was a Dutch saying, and the context of it and the history of it. And ChatGPT just said, no, no, you can't do this or that because, and not explaining it was a saying with a different meaning. So,
yeah.
so it says actually DeepSeek did a
So
great
it's a
job.
little bit more culture oriented because you also have a lot of times when you meet an American, they don't know that France and the Netherlands aren't the same company or the same country, and
Yeah.
like
Uh,
little, not everyone, of course, but some.
but having said that, the question is, shouldn't we use existing models and train them on specific data we want to train on,
Yeah,
and instead of trying to create something that is outdated when it starts, and it makes actually people's lives more complicated. Maybe you should invest in integrated in an existing model and make it so good and give it so much information that you know, make AI great again. Dutch
yeah,
AI.
yeah.
To be honest, I don't think there's because so few people speak Dutch.
It's a small market. It's pretty much what is it with Belgium? It's 20
And
million Dutch speaking people.
yeah, so altogether, but it doesn't even matter. It's nothing compared to
Yeah, the whole world. Yeah,
the whole world. Or and most people that speak Dutch do speak another language. I'm
yeah,
not saying that we should stop speaking Dutch in Holland. We shouldn't. But I think some of these models are actually doing a great job,
yeah.
and they're well trained in languages. So, what is it that you want it to do? And if it's well trained in languages, that means there's other stuff that they haven't been paying attention to.
Mhm.
So, to use it broadly in your company, it's probably useless. Um, and it's one thing to get it out there,
Yeah.
but the other thing is to keep it out there,
Yeah, to keep it
and
improving and to
keep it
get all the
relevant.
resources.
So they might invest 13 million to get it out there. And okay, they get all the rights, etc. But if they want to continue like that, I think, and companies start seeing out that give the copyright, that they're making money of it, it's going to get so much more expensive that knowing the Dutch, we're going to say, nah, we're not going to
Yeah,
use it. We'll create our own, like the Chinese, we'll create our own solution that
we'll do our
is
own
cheaper,
thing.
faster, and not being dependent on something that's, to be honest, I don't think it's maintainable
No,
at that level for a normal price. So
no, it
and
will be impossible. And also the investing climate in the Netherlands. If you're a fan, let's say you just got your PhD or whatever, and you want to start a company because you have all these amazing ideas, there's no Dutch investor that's just going to give you $5 million and yeah, we'll
no,
see where it ends. That the
no.
euros, but that just doesn't happen, and that is the sort of environment you need to make this happen.
So I think that's why we're better off using stuff that is out there that has been developed,
Yeah,
and uh, use that to innovate and do shit nobody has done before, or in a way nobody has used it before,
yeah,
and to do amazing things. And I think that's where our innovation should go.
yeah. I also think
Uh,
it's where the talent of the Dutch lies. Like just being straight up, like no, that doesn't work. I don't like that. We're gonna make this better, and we're gonna do it now.
yeah, yeah, but the problem is these things take time, and they also take money. You need a
Yeah,
company
and
that has the
I
balls
think
to.
that's maybe the biggest. I think the investment climate here is not good enough for us to even possibly compete or add service.
I think it will change because in Europe we say we want to be a knowledge economy, and now seeing what happened, with a lot of countries also in the defense industry,
Yeah,
we're also going to be a make. We're going to go back to making stuff.
yeah,
Because and in the COVID time with medicine and everything, but this takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and it's a culture shift. So
yeah.
I think, yeah, we're we're in interesting times, and I think AI is going to make companies scalable again.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be the like
Make it
the
scalable. Make it scalable.
it's scalable with AI. Scalable.
Scalable. Yeah.
Okay. If you would give an advice or a tip to a company that has a lot of processes,
Yeah.
right, and a lot of people handling these processes, a lot of different software that that okay, we do this thing in one piece of software, take it out, put it in Excel, then the next person puts it in another piece of software,
Yeah.
etc. So, some stuff you could solve with RPA, and some stuff you could do smarter.
Yeah.
What would you tell companies like, okay, where do they start? How do they go from zero to a small, I wouldn't even say proof of concept, it's more than a proof of concept, a small application where you take the low-hanging fruit. You actually have a useful business case to say, okay, if we approach it this way in our company, we get like the manual to, because I think every company is a little bit different in that.
Yeah.
You can't just take a manual and say, okay, this is a standard way of doing things. It doesn't work. But to gradually take these processes and say, okay, let's see if we can automate it using AI and become smarter, augment the people that actually have to handle the difficult cases,
Yeah.
create time and become scalable without being dependent on extra staff. I wouldn't say lay off the staff, but extra staff, because we have a staff problem, a hiring problem in Europe
Yeah.
as well. We don't have enough people, capable people. So what would your advice be?
So I think number one is you start at the bottom. So yeah, I
Define
think
bottom.
most people know undercover boss. The
Yeah.
program boss just works at the bottom floor. I think almost every CEO, director, whatever you want to call yourself, you have to be in touch with the people that actually do all of the work. You have to be in touch with the people that do all of the administration. You have to sort of sniff out the bullshit, so to speak. Is this impossible because you haven't looked? Is it impossible because it's actually impossible? Or are you just not motivated enough to do it? And I'm not giving you a platform to do it. From all of the businesses that we work with, the first thing we do is we start talking to the bottom. So they know they have an issue, but they don't want to look at it. They want to pretend it's not really there, or that it's okay enough, or if we draft this document in one day, then that's okay. No, you really have to look at the stuff you don't really want to do. I think that as a director is definitely your job. Elon Musk calls it eating glass and staring into the abyss.
And sleeping in the office.
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
factory
Well,
in his
I don't
case.
know if you have to do that. I've definitely done that once, but it's not recommended. But it's just start. I think the only tip I can give is just start.
It's thank you for that, and it's valuable. And you see these sort of, this is like a red thread in this whole story, not just with you, but with all people involved in AI. They say, okay, you need to start at the bottom and understand where to start, and start small. But here's the interesting thing: you say explicitly, as a CEO or as a director in a company or part of the board, you need to be at the floor where shit happens, where the actual work is being done. And here's the interesting thing: is you should have done that without even AI.
Yeah, I know, but it's if you don't think AI is going to change your business, you are either in the 1% of businesses that is untouchable by AI. Fine.
That would be manufacturing of
if you have a cleaning company,
or
what is AI
mining or
going to do for
something.
you? Like, you can maybe hire robots in a few years.
Actually, I heard an interview on the radio of a company that fully focuses on implementing cleaning robots in cleaning companies.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and it's fully, they use AI to map out the building.
Yeah,
and so that is happening too. And
but then it's more robotics than pure software AI, something you can do yourself. You and me also cannot build a cleaning robot. That
no.
You might know how.
I have no interest in doing that.
No, exactly. So you don't have to become everything. But if you think AI isn't going to touch your company and you do most of your work on a computer, you are just wrong. 3 months ago, you were maybe wrong. Now you are definitely wrong. wrong. This is going to be the future, and it's going to come sooner than later, much
Yeah.
sooner than later. So this is not a 4 or 5 year change. You can see it with the companies that we work with. They add AI and they become the standard. They become the company that has 2-day delivery. They become that standard, and then all of their competitors have to adjust. And then they have that 6-month period that you already could have gone through to get to the point where you can implement and use it.
This is interesting because of course, I speak to a lot of companies, and I hear them say, "Oh yeah, but we want to wait and look." And so, but you need to start now. It's not about me, but if you need to learn and understand and understand the reaction of your staff and how to implement it and how it would affect your business, your innovation or innovative capacity, and because one of the things is, I don't know, in other countries, but in Holland, most of the companies start budgeting for the next year in the summer or right after the summer. And and then they start thinking about it, but they don't have enough time and understanding of what it actually is. So they push the implementation of innovations usually forward, and it's dependent on a million things, and it's a discretionary budget. So we need more money somewhere else. So let's not do it, or not do it now, or half. You can't do this half. And I think, if you allocate a certain amount of money and time of people, and use external capacity, because you won't be able to hire AI engineers and employ them full time and keep them interested, because that's the other point. These are curious, innovative people. They want to do shit. If you hire them and they get bored, they go away. There goes your knowledge.
Or they just start sitting and wasting in the corner. No, I think that's a good point. No, but it's the analogy that I just thought up of is, let's say we're in a race, and somebody else is much better, and I'm maybe a small player. And let's say I'm racing against Usain Bolt. If I have a 3-month head start, Usain Bolt ain't winning.
Yeah.
It's just not. Do you start today? Do you start tomorrow? If somebody else started yesterday, you're more likely than not already much more behind than you'd like to be. And then even when you have this AI implementation, it still means you have to optimize it and the whole process around it, and you have to add stuff onto it. So if you're a company that the ones that we help, where you don't even have a digitized process, you have to start today. There is no there is no solution. It's the fast that eat the slow, not the big that eat the small, and that's very important.
Yeah, but I do think that companies have their data in order, no matter how rotten their regular process is right now. They could actually be at an advantage because they don't have these rotten half-ass processes. They skip all that and go from 0 to 100. Okay, there's a certain investment, and that's the other thing. There's this investment part, and understanding that it still costs money to keep it up and running and relevant after the investment period. It's less, but it's still serious money. And these companies need to understand you don't stop. That's where you start innovating and building and start scaling. Start thinking about scaling. So it's a strategic shift. Also, using AI means your strategy has to change and your focus has to change. And
I think that's instead of hiring a new junior employee that you have to train for half a year, if you budget that out and you can get an AI solution in your company that can eventually or sooner than later replace 20 of your employees, then it's just a bad business decision. It can be done cheaper, it can be done faster, it can be done quicker, and all of the people that you already have trained get more free time and can deliver higher quality. So in what type of formula can you make where AI isn't going to improve your business? And even some people I've met, they're like resume writers, and then they say, "Oh no, I'm so good at my job. I'm so fantastic that AI can never replace me, and we're so personal and we're so caring." Yeah, and then you go to what is it? Sheets and Geeks is a guy from Reddit who used to write a lot of. Who used to write a lot of resumes for people and tips on resumes, and he built a whole business around that. He turned it online, earns $20,000 per month in 1 month.
And doesn't do anything anymore.
He doesn't do anything anymore, and the resumes are better.
I had the
So
same discussion with a communication person, and she wrote text for websites, etc. And I said, you need to move because you will become irrelevant. Nah,
yeah,
nah, 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 nah. It took a year and a half, maybe two.
yeah,
I said that immediately after ChatGPT became open. I said, you need to make the shift, start working with it, tell your customers you're a communications prompt engineer where there's so many more customers you could service
yeah,
faster, and still use it to augment yourself. That's it. Be honest about it. Just do that. And lower your rate. You have more customers. You're less dependent. No. It took a lot of time. Now you see the shift, but I think it's already late because
yeah.
a lot of companies are doing it themselves, and all these companies and freelancers, they're going to be like, okay, you become more of an editor, AI editor, than or check for the tone of voice. So
No, and I think also with the late part, it's not too late. You can still start, but if you start in half a year, I'm pretty sure there's going to be someone else more hungry that has eaten your bread by then.
I fully agree. Wesley, thank you very much. I found it very interesting and
Yeah,
enlightening. Let's do this in half a year and see where the world moved. And I think we'll probably look back as like, oh, we were so outdated 6 months ago.
yeah,
Look
I
at where
think
we're
so
at
as
now.
well.
So
Right.
let's do that and keep up the good work and keep me posted.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much.